Hello and welcome to another episode of Having a Chat. My name is Tommy Casher, and today I'm chatting with Sally Ann Briggs. Sally Ann is the head coach of the Hobart Hurricanes in the Women's Big Bash League and the Tasmanian Tigers in the Women's National Cricket League. Now, Sally Ann, first things first, what'd you have for breakfast?
Well, seeing as though Easter is just around the corner, I started on the hot cross buns this morning, and they were absolutely lovely with a good helping of butter.
Is that a standard breakfast for you, the hot cross buns?
No, it's certainly not. And to be fair, I'd say breakfast is probably something I need to work harder on. But normally we go for the toast, but sometimes the coffee just kind of does the job.
No, Sally Ann, surely being in that professional environment, you know that breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
I know I shouldn't be saying these things aloud. I'm probably regretting it already. But yeah, no, it's interesting actually because people over here, like I'm getting used to Aussie living. It's like if we go out, it has to go out for brunch.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if we're meeting up and having a social occasion, we're going out for dinner. But yeah, I've got onto my poached eggs more of late. So yeah, but I do need to eat it more regular. That's for sure.
I want to give you a shout out, though, in respect for only having one hot cross bun. Because that's something for me, like if I'm having one, I'm probably having the whole six pack. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't stop. They're so moreish. It's like barbecue shapes. You have one and you just the whole box is gone. It's a write off.
Yeah, well, it's probably lucky I was in a bit of a rush this morning, or I probably could have helped myself to a second. So, yeah.
So, okay, what kind of relationship do you have with food? Like, are you a meal prepper? How do you normally go about things? So you said you're not really, big on breakfast, but what about, lunches and dinners?
Yeah, I love my food, can't lie. And I really love cooking. So like when we were away for the WBBL in the hub in Sydney, like that was the one thing that I was desperate to do, just come back and start just cooking again. But I definitely would probably plan or put most input into evening meals. More so because you can have a nice glass of red wine and,
so is that
just a good chin wag.
so is that something that you reckon? You know how they say that you've got different cups in your life, and your friendship cup, and your family cup, and your hobbies cup. When you're in a hub in the WBBL, is that something that you love doing, cooking, that you weren't able to do, that you found, impacted on how you were thinking and feeling in the bubble?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, the first few weeks, you're riding the wave a little bit, and then you start to miss all your home comforts and the things that you get energy from. Now, I wouldn't say that, it would, if I had to do it again, I'd say no because I was missing too many little things. Like we just want to play cricket, but it makes you realize those certain situations that are engineered and, you have to go through the things that you value. And yeah, I definitely miss cooking, especially for my family and entertaining people.
Did you then, when you got out of the bubble, did you come home and have a few massive cook ups and your family really appreciate that when you got out?
Yeah, just like that's what I want to do. Just let me have it for the next 2 weeks and enjoy it and put your feet up because like I just want to get back to doing things more, get your normal lifestyle back in stock really. Because like I said, the key things that you realize that you miss in those situations are the things that really motivate you and give you energy and keep you fresh every day.
I can imagine that would have been so tough, like coming home from, games in the 5 week bubble and then, you just want to cook or you just want to go and see your mates and get out of that zone. But I guess for that 5 weeks and whether the men's competition is probably that on a greater scale, but is that something that you think did you underestimate that or did you know how hard that was going to be going into it?
Um, I think for myself, I probably looked at it as if, I'm very much a people person and I was with people all the time. So I felt that, yeah, I possibly didn't have my people with me all the time. But I knew that I would get energy from just those conversations. What I underestimated was how hard it would be for people who like their own space. I know you can go back to your room, but then you're going back to your room and it's just four walls and it's not where you want to be. Um, that I would probably say I underestimated that part of it and how hard actually it was for some people to then go out and perform when they needed to under those pressures.
And I guess from your perspective as well, from the coach, you just want everyone to be in the best mindset and, approach the games in the best way possible. But there are certain creature comforts that I'm assuming players would have wanted around them that you actually can't help with.
Yeah, definitely. But, I felt that going into that competition, we did a lot of work with our player development manager in that phase about, right, what are we going to expect? What are our worst case scenarios? What can we do? And we even went to, we had a session with two netballers that were in a hub prior to that. And I think they were in a hub for 14 weeks. And they gave us an hour of their time of, what do they need? And what can we then, I guess, take into that environment as well? So, we did our best and we felt that we were well prepared for that, but nothing prepares you for something that's I would say there's the unknown at times, and especially when we didn't have a great result wise tournament, and that adds significant pressure as well.
So, Sal, you've had a distinguished playing career over in the UK before you progressed through the ranks and you were the inaugural coach of the Loughborough Lightning side in the Kia Super League, which, for those who aren't aware, is equivalent to the women's Big Bash over here. So you've also worked as the England Women's Academy head coach and the England Under-19s head coach. So when did coaching really present itself to be a realistic career path for you?
Um, I've always coached alongside playing, and I've really enjoyed it. So, even as a player, I would tend to, working with my peers or working with the younger players. I kind of always enjoyed that, and I've always had a sense of achievement from others doing what they thought were not possible, but then going out and doing it. Like I really enjoy. Like for me, happiness is anyone's happiness, not just your own. And then I wanted to be a teacher. I was very inspired by my own PE teacher, and I thought that would be a very good route to go down. And then I kind of went to university and was like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to teach people that don't necessarily want to be taught.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's yeah, and then I met a great guy called Graham Dilley, who played cricket for England, big fast bowler, and he just saw something in me that I probably didn't see from a coaching point of view, and just pushed me, made me do my qualifications, really pushed me outside my comfort zone, like made me lead sessions that were with first class cricketers, male first class cricketers, where I felt over my head a lot of the time doing that sort of stuff, but he just backed me and believed in me and, give me the book really. And then I just would do anything I could to just be in these high performance environments, even if it was volunteering for 2 years or working with highly talented players. I just loved it.
Do you think there was a point where the switch flicked and you thought, oh no, I do belong in this environment. I can coach, whether it's, elite women's pathway or it's men's county cricket, whatever it was. Did something flick for you at a point?
I think when I eventually got my first job as a coach was probably that light bulb moment for me that, I can do it. I got that belief because most of my roles were either like part-time or voluntary roles. And that was for a long time, like probably 5 years alongside doing my university degree. So when I got that high performance head coach role at Loughborough University, and then I started working with some good players, you become a coach full time, and then you think, are you good enough to work with the best? And I was just lucky enough at Loughborough to be around some really good players that had incredible aspirations to be the best. And I always kind of saw it was being at the right time at the right place in that because they kind of taught me how to be a coach as well as potentially the impact that I might have had on them.
Now, how does a player teach you how to be a coach? Can you delve into that a bit deeper?
Yeah, so back in I think it was 2011, I was lucky enough to run a female program that enabled really talented cricketers to have an education as well as be a performance athlete. And I was lucky enough to coach the people like Nat Siver, Catherine Brunt, Anya Shrubsole, Georgia Elworth, Lauren Winfield. So all these players were young, aspiring players that all they wanted to do was actually play for England. The kind of getting a university degree was just on the side. So yeah, I had to pull them. Remember, you got to get an education as well. But so I was fortunate because I had motivated athletes that would do anything to get to that level. And so, building a program for them to achieve that was, some of my highlights as a coaching career. And then to go and see them, I guess, play at that level that they've always wished they can and do it well is amazing. So, yeah, look, I played a small part in their journey for 4 years or so, but it was what gave me the attributes to learn how to coach. And God, I made some mistakes along the way, but what you have to, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. So, what was happening in your life at the time before the Hobart Hurricanes and Cricket Tasmania came knocking on your door?
Yeah, so I was, like you've mentioned, I was working with the ECB as the England Academy coach. And then I was head of high performance and the female cricket coach at Loughborough University. So we had almost like a franchise. So Loughborough Lightning was our T20 team. And I think we were just going into our third year of KSL. So I'd been in that role really for 6 to 7 years. And I was kind of getting a bit of itchy feet. And I kind of come to, I guess, a bit of a standstill. Right, what do I want to do in my coaching career? Where do I want to go next? My personal life probably went backwards a little bit, and it gave me opportunity to look further afield because I guess I needed to open a new door in my life. And then it was, I want to be an international head coach. So, okay, well, how am I going to do that? Well, I probably need to go and work in another program and try and make that successful. And then hopefully when I do put my name in the hat, people are going to look at my CV and go, well, she's worked in two good programs. She's probably worth a go now. So that's it. That's how it happened.
So, did you approach Cricket Tasmania? Did they approach you? Did you sort of throw your name out there that, you were looking to come over?
Yeah, well, I saw it on Twitter, funny enough. I said,
No.
well, yeah, the female team are looking for a new head coach, or they'd just lost their previous head coach. So I just emailed, would you be interested in overseas applicants? And they said, yeah. And then I guess the rest is history. And it was a very thorough job interview. I feel like I went through 3 to 4 interviews. But I kind of like that, even though it put me under pressure, it made me realize how serious they are in investing in their women's program. So it kind of made me more excited because as soon as I got that email back to say we're interested in overseas applicants, I was in. I wanted that job so bad.
Okay, so talk me through getting the job. When was that, like via email, via call, via Skype? How'd that happen?
Yeah, it was initially via a call from the CEO, but I went through initial interview with a high performance manager, the HR manager, and the talent manager that was there. So I had 45 minutes with them. Then I did a 45-minute presentation on what I would do in the first 3 months and then what I would hope to achieve after 12 months in this female program. Then I had a set of questions with the captain and a few more members of the staff. And then I had a phone call with the CEO.
Far out.
Yeah, so yeah, it was full on, but like I said, it just made me realize how much they were going to be investing in women's cricket.
So when you flew over, you landed. Were there any were there any feelings of trepidation or obviously I'm sure there were nerves because you've moved over to a country. Had you ever been to Australia before?
I'd been to Australia, and I'd never. Funny enough, I went on holiday in March to Australia, and I got the job, and then I went over to Hobart for a day, and then flew back because I didn't come back till then June.
Yeah.
So I went to Hobart for a day just to meet some people, sort some admin stuff out, and then didn't come back till because I had a 3 months work notice. So I arrived, I think it was June the 2nd, and I started work on June the 5th. So I felt actually quite at ease from a works point of view and getting stuck in. And because I went through that process with a job interview as well, I felt like I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was ready to do because all these people in the organization were happy with what I presented. So I just needed to get stuck in. The bit that I was really nervous about was not knowing anyone.
Yeah.
And where am I going to live? Like, how am I getting around? That was the scary part.
So obviously you felt settled in the job and confident in the job. How long did it take you to feel confident in the city? And
Oh,
in your personal life and what's going on outside of work, like 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever the hours were, you're
yeah,
confident and comfortable in your job. But then going home after work,
yeah,
how long?
good. Sorry, yeah, I don't think I actually settled in for between 6 to 8 months. And the reason for that actually is that I came into a flat here which was in the ground, and it wasn't the most luxurious of flats, and it kind of felt like I'd gone back to my student days.
Okay.
And I was like, I felt like I'd gone back in life where actually what I want to do is always go up the step. And then I jumped into another accommodation, which I couldn't make my own. And it was not until I bought my house in Hobart that I actually thought, right, I'm ready now. I'm settled. This is good. Home life's good. And then, yeah, it did take a while. But once I got, I guess, my own home comforts, I was good.
Do you reckon that impacted on your coaching in the first 6 or 8 months? How you were feeling outside of work?
Um, I don't think so, but what it did make me do, I worked continuously. So I got to a stage where I didn't want to go home in
Yeah.
Hobart. You know what I mean? I didn't, because I had nothing to go to. Where I was living wasn't, so I'd rather spend all the time at work or with the players. So maybe probably I overdid it a little bit, which is not good for me. But obviously, maybe put a little bit more pressure in regards of contact all the time with players rather than right, go home, disappear. I'll see you the next day.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I tended just to work a lot longer hours.
So is that something you're better at now?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's massively important. Whether you're a coach or a player, that balance is crucial because one will start eating at the other in some time, and obviously it will explode. So yeah, much better.
How much do you encourage your players to have interests and hobbies, and whether it's study or work outside of the game?
I do actually think I've got a good understanding of that. And I think I'm very fortunate for the work that I did at Loughborough. Like I said, it was a professional program. The girls weren't paid, but they were trained in, I would say, in a similar environment that they do now here, but they were doing their education. So all we've got a young player who's 16 coming through our program now, very talented, but he's at school. And I was quite surprised actually when I came over, even though the girls are getting paid over here, what little interest they had outside of cricket. And the lady I mentioned before, Emma Doherty, the PDM, we do a lot of work in that space to make sure either the girls have got education, supporting what they do from a cricket point of view, or they've actually got some real and then we just build the program around. There's some days where we say, look, this is where we need our squad days, but if you've got lectures or you're going to a bike club to meet new people, then you go do it.
So obviously you mentioned all the girls in the program are getting paid. Do the majority of them have other jobs when it's not cricket season to supplement the income they make through cricket?
No, they don't actually. I would say there's a minority that have jobs. We've got a physio that's professional cricket with us. We've got other players that have little small businesses. So Maisie Gibson has a sock company, little things like that, which is
Yeah.
that. I would say most of them are pretty much immersed in cricket with little things on the side rather than full like a profession, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay. So when we've got the 5 week women's Big Bash tournament, and then we've got the Women's National Cricket League happening for another 8 weeks, is it? 6, 8 weeks?
Yep. Yeah, I think the final's due on the 27th of March.
Yep. Okay. So other than that, are we just in a postseason schedule and then a pre-season leading up to the Big Bash again?
Yeah, so we'll probably have 2 weeks after the final, just so we can do our, I guess, end of season meetings with all the players and kind of make sure we've reviewed the season properly. And then the girls will go off anywhere between 6 and 9 weeks.
Okay.
So we would want them to have 2 weeks complete rest. So, really make sure their body is fully recovered. And then they will have a complete break from cricket, but then they'll start getting back in the physical side of things. But we encourage them to do that away from the cricket centre. Because the biggest thing with cricket, it obviously is a physical sport, but the main component is the mental side. It's about decision making fundamentally. So we've got to give them enough time off so they come back excited and like they've missed the place. And I reckon that's different for everyone. So, and you've got to get that right.
So you're 3 seasons in charge of the Hobart Hurricanes WBBL side haven't been as successful as you would have liked. Can you talk to me about persisting through tough periods as a coach compared to a player? Because, players obviously might have extra net sessions. Steve Smith will hit the ball for 6 hours instead of 3. What can you do as a coach when at the end of the day, it's not you out there trying to bowl that maiden over or trying to hit those winning runs or protect your wicket or whatever it might be?
Thing that Dan and I, who's my assistant coach, we always go to when we check in on one another. Are we still sticking to what we believe in, and what is working, and are we going away from that at times because we're getting bored of this, or it's unsuccessful, or do we need new ideas? Like, it's the review process that we need to make sure, because I reckon halfway through the second year, we didn't back what we truly believed in as coaches, even though I think we know what's going to work for this team. Because we didn't have that success in the second year, we've started to really doubt what we do as coaches, and went away from that. And I really feel that we wasted time, and now we've got back to what we're doing. We're trusting what we set out to do, what our vision was, how we're going to get there. And now we're starting to see some changes. So the hardest thing at Hobart is that cricket is based on results. Any sports is based on results. But where we were, even though we're improving as a team, we're still not good enough to see it from an outcome point of view.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we have those systems in place that the girls can see the improvements they're making in games. Like, I'm not just saying in training, they've got to see it in games as well, even though we're missing out on getting those results. And once we'd gone back to that, what you then create is positive energy, still a positive mindset, and people still motivated. But it's interesting because it's the first time I've experienced it.
The doubt?
Yes, I'd say the doubt in what I'm doing, because we've had a lot of losses along the way. But as a player and also as a coach, I've never experienced losing as many games. And it's truly horrible feeling. Like, nothing beats winning in my mind. How does
that manifest itself when you're the coach and you've had these losses? Are you then working longer hours? What does it look like for you? How does it come out?
Comes out at home. So like you overthink all the time, like, and it keeps you up at night. You're making notes at night. You can't stop thinking about it. And like Dan, I want to speak to him all the time because this is what I'm thinking. But yeah, we still need a mental release. And it was interesting actually, because when COVID happened, we were in our kind of like 6 to 9 week break, and what I said to the staff was like, why don't we check in once a week? Because the world's not great, it's a bit doomsday. But if I'd have done that again, I'd have said, no, we're not seeing each other. because what we were doing, we're checking in, and even though we're good friends, we were talking about work all the time.
Yeah.
And I actually think you need that mental release. You need to decompress fully as a coach.
Do you find it hard to switch off? Because I guess in a job like yours, you obviously love the job, you love cricket, and there would be an element of it that didn't seem like work as much as, you know, like a tradie on the tools or an accountant in the office. It's very separate to an enjoyment and a job. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, well, it's because I think it's because you're in a people business. So as a coach, you're always concerned how someone's feeling. Um, and at times, sometimes feeling what they think of you or how you approached it. So if you have a tough conversation because you want to make them better, that still lives with you. Do you know what I mean? You can't be the ogre at times. It's not overly enjoyable, but you want to have the impact to make a positive influence. So I think that's just when you're in a people business that will always tick over. You can't just turn off at 5 o'clock.
No. And I'm especially imagining that, you know, when you're at work at the club, you're talking to the players, you're watching the net session, you're watching tape. But then when you get home, you're probably analyzing everything you just saw and the day you just had and the conversations you had and all that sort of stuff. That's your kind of review time of the day, which you would need to be able to, oh, am I going to pick this player, or, you know, whoever it was bowling well in the nets today. Am I going to, like, that would never stop.
Yeah, do you know what I really do miss now you've mentioned that is when I worked at Loughborough, I lived in a place called Ruddington, which was about a 30-minute drive. So when I left work, I had 30 minutes to just have all those processes in my head and then walk through the front door. But I live 5 minutes from Bunston now,
Yep.
and it's hard. You can't do it. So I'm still doing that. So I would advise if you were a coach, just have a good time drive away from where you work because it's much better.
Is there a bakery somewhere that's 15 minutes away? You could drive, get your hot cross bun 15 minutes away, drive home, have it in the car, and then you've had your hot cross bun and you've had your 30 minutes thinking time.
Yeah, I'd probably go for a sausage roll though.
A sausage roll. That is so
You can't have
random.
cross bun at like 5, 6, 7 p.m.
Oh, mate, I could have a hot cross bun whenever. I've got a. What's your weakness when it comes to food? Are you a sweet tooth or are you a savory kind of cheese platter kind of gal?
Yeah, I didn't quite get the first part of that, but savory all the way, not sweet.
Really? So if
Yeah.
you're feeling like, you know, you want a bit of a naughty treat, what's your go-to?
Sweet chili crisp with a hummus dip, which I know it's not. People look at me gone out when I get that, and like I'd put crisps out with dips, and they're like, "We don't do that here." So I was like,
No.
"Just try it, just try it."
Okay.
But yeah, that's my go-to.
So your Tasmanian Tigers team in the Women's National Cricket League have won 2 from 2 so far this season. How important is momentum in cricket, and how do you harness that as a coach?
Oh God, so important. And it's a great week for us last week because it was the first time this team has ever won the first two games of the WNCL in I think 12 years.
Wow.
And if we're talking about being finals contenders, like you've got to have that domination at the start. So yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. But once you create history, I guess, and we're trying to create those small wins, you've still got to make sure you stay in the moment. So we can't let the team get too ahead of themselves. And we also can't let the team self-sabotage. So I'm working a lot with female cricketers in particular, but this group that have been used to losing a lot of games, when they do something well, they're very good at going, well, the next game's not going to be good because, that's a little bit what's wired just because that's the experiences they've had playing at Tassie.
I guess
So we
a
go on.
protection mechanism as well. Just setting themselves up to not get too high.
Yeah, so it's exactly right. So you've got to get that balance. And what we do and what we're better at now is that, we've got certain KPIs that we stick to and we measure them in training. And that's, if honestly, if we just stick to the process and we keep ticking off them, be better at contributing to our KPIs, hopefully we'll get those people away from doubting themselves or going, right, we're title contenders straight away. We just need to keep them day by day.
So what has changed from your women's the WBBL to the WNCL? Like it's only 2 weeks in between. So how has there been such a monumental shift, I guess, in the attitude around the
Yeah.
team?
Do you know what? It surprised me as well. Like, once we'd finished WBBL and we had a couple of weeks off, 10 days off, I think it was. And I was a bit nervous coming back. And I was like, right, how are we going to get the girls up? How are we going to get one thing that really surprised me about the WBBL was how close the group became. So, and I don't know why I'm surprised about it, but I reckon a lot of the players in the group were probably surface level relationships. And because they were in that tight knit environment, they really got to know each other on a deeper level. And therefore, the care for one another is much deeper. So when we came back, they were excited to see each other again because there were stronger connections. And yeah, we just kind of grabbed. Well, I felt like I just grabbed onto the cape and went with it, and it was fantastic. And they couldn't wait to get back training. So we had the element of we missed this now, let's go in. We had the right break, but the other thing was they were a much closer group.
Do you think that's going to be a silver lining that comes out of every COVID sporting bubble that happened in 2020? That all the groups will be closer knit together? When I guess we looked at it as a bit of a negative at the time that, people are isolated away from their families for certain amounts of time and you can get different personality dynamics in a group that don't really mesh well being 5 weeks or 14 weeks together. Do you think a silver lining is that they have those closer bonds now?
Definitely in our environment, but I don't know for other environments. The reason why I say that is because the Tassie squad has changed a lot over the 2.5 years. So what we've tried to do is recruit some senior players from other teams, which we have. And what I've seen, we've not gelled naturally. Whereas, some of the teams have actually played age group cricket together
Yeah, okay.
all the way through. Do you know what I mean? So I reckon it would have a lot of positive impact on a lot of teams. It'd be interesting to, have those questions. I have asked one coach, actually, we played South Australia last week, and I was like, is your team much closer from the experience? I know it was a tough environment, and she was a bit like, well, we were pretty close anyway. And then I was like, oh, how was that? And she then talked, they've had players. It's been the same group of people for a long period of time.
Yeah. How hard is it as a coach trying to get everyone to gel when you might have a 16-year-old who's playing on the weekend and then has double maths at 9 o'clock on Monday morning versus someone who might be going home to a husband and kids or their partner or living by themselves? How hard is it to try and bring a group together?
Yeah, look, I think that goes back to trying to get an understanding of self and others. And again, when you're building what you would call a high performance team, a lot of investment and resource goes into that. So, when people are at your best, what does that look like? When people are at your worst, what does that look like? Well, let's share that information. And then, what's a big energizer for me? What are my big commitments now? And I guess players know each other, and that's what I would say surface level stuff in around appreciating what each other need at times. So much so as in like who you share rooms with, all that type of stuff. It's all about knowing self and knowing others. And no one knows when you're 16. And I don't think most people know when you're at 30, to be honest. It's always evolving, but at least we can have those conversations.
Do you think that side of the game is something that's changed in your time in professional cricket environments? The off-field stuff? Or is there something that you've noticed that has changed a lot since you first came into the professional cricket environment to now? Whether it's the mental health aspect or the gelling together of a team off-field?
I think the professionalisation of women's cricket is obviously developed and increased with support for those players. So I think as that's evolved, the professionalisation, there's been more resources brought into that. As you know, sport is not just on pitch. Actually, how can we get an all-round athlete to perform on pitch? But when you say like my time, especially my education, which I started probably, God,
A,
a long,
a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I always feel, I was very lucky to do my ECB level 4 qualification, and that's a 2.5 year process with Gloucester University. And actually, I felt the whole 2 years was hardly anything on cricket, but it was about managing a high performance team. So integrated practice, managing staff, leadership, you know, transactional analysis, all these things about developing relationships and people.
What is transactional analysis?
It's how you speak. Get your head out of the oven or get away from the edge of the pool, you're going to behave and scream it. You're going to behave like a child. But if I say to you, just walk away from there, I'm going to get an adult response back. So it's the tones, it's the dialogue. It's about how to keep all conversations on adult level.
Is that really hard? Because in a sporting environment, things can get heated, and I know it's your workplace, but it's not like any other workplace.
No, and this is why I love the education process, because when we were learning that, we went through role plays, and my role play, I was a coach, and Graham Thorpe, who had met like only 12 months earlier, and Graham Thorpe for me is the best left-handed batter for England. He's a disgruntled parent shouting at me to get a parent back on your wavelength. And that was my first experience of it, and it was horrible and hard, but you know, you're in those situations all the time, and it's about you. It's amazing if you can control how your tone or how you're with someone, what positive response you can get back. Like until you're in that moment, knowing it and doing it, like you can really influence, and that's all coaching is, influencing behavior.
Do you think that's been a bigger part of your learning and development as a coach compared to, you know, mental blank, compared to your game day tactics? You know, do you know what I mean? You know how to play the game and you know how you want your team to play. Is it the off-field coaching and leadership and transactional analysis where the development comes as a coach?
Yeah, I think so, because you know when you're at this level, and probably more so at the higher level, international level, a lot of these players have the skills to do what they need to do. So you just fine tuning. Therefore, managing people to get the best out of them is really important. And by no means, am I excellent at it. But what I can do is I guess I can realize when I've made an absolute stinker and I've said something that I shouldn't have said. And you can see the reaction of a player that I've lost them.
Yeah, okay. And you want to DRS that one? You want to throw that up? Just review.
Yeah, I want to go, yeah, Dan, can we just work through that again? What should I have said? And I'm going to go have that conversation again. But maybe tomorrow when I'm less annoyed.
All right, Sal, we've come to this part of the podcast where I ask you what's something that no one would know about you.
God, yeah. I thought about this one, and there's one part of my life that for some reason I was quite ashamed of. So when I'm from Grimsby, and if you don't know where Grimsby is, watch Grimsby the film.
Oh yeah, with Sacha.
Yep. Yeah.
Sacha Baron Cohen. Yep.
And from like 16 through to like 23, between university and education, I worked in factories. So I'm a qualified factory worker that knows how to pack nappies, shell peas, make microwave meals. I've kind of done it all. But I wanted to earn money. But the key thing is that when I look back on that moment of my life, like I worked with some incredible people, down to earth, salt of the earth, do anything for you. And I learned how to kind of stand on my own 2 feet. So there's that period of my life. And the other sports that I really love that no one knows about you. And I think people just think I'm cricket mad and that's it, and I don't do anything else. But I do like to play other sports as well.
Okay, now, so why do you think you were? I guess earlier you said you were ashamed of that part of your life.
I'm sad to say this, but people perceive people who work in factories on minimum wage as, probably, low socioeconomic people that
Yep.
have probably uneducated, like to spend all their money at the pub, all that type of stuff. And
Yeah. Okay.
I'm ashamed to say it, but it was something that I knew I had to do, but
I've
would
worked in.
hide the fact.
Yeah, no, and I've worked in so many jobs. I've worked in factories before as well, packing boxes, and that's where you've got that head noise going on, like thinking about your life and analyzing things. And I've just realized that wasn't for me. And I give props to anyone that can do it because there's so many different jobs that need to be done in the world. So I mean, I guess to me, someone's job is the almost the least interesting part about them. Like, who are they as a person? And like you said, you meet some really fantastic people in those kinds of jobs who will do anything for you and just really, I guess, they respect people for their character as well.
Yeah, exactly. And working 12-hour days, 4 days on, 2 days off, and then doing a night shift, it's hard work,
Yeah,
but
it is.
good fun. Did it, did it. Didn't want to do it forever. I knew that much,
Yeah.
but
And Sal, finally, we'll finish on your big call. I am excited to see what you got for me here, but Sally Ann Briggs, what is your big call?
big call. Whether it's big, I'm not so sure, but those that know me know that I like a glass of claret every now and then. And I fundamentally believe that you can drink red wine with seafood.
Oh, that is a big call. I thought you were going to say cold. You can drink red wine cold, and that's what I thought we were going.
No, I can't drink it cold. But more so since I've been over here,
Mm.
is that I have to drink white wine with any seafood that I have. And if I don't, people look at me as if I've got two heads.
Well, you are in Tassie, so. But so,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
what's your so Tasmania? Obviously, fantastic seafood down there. Have you got a pairing for us? What's your favorite seafood dish with favorite bottle of red to go for if you're going out somewhere in Tassie? You got any tips
Well,
for
I
us?
kind of go if I'm going like a meaty fish or a shellfish, like a Shiraz. But if I'm going for like a lighter fish, then I would probably go for a Pinot. But yeah, I don't need to drink white wine with my fish, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
Sal, mate, I love that. That's really good. And next time I'm down in Tassie, I'll hit you up and you can take me to somewhere where we can get a good fish and a red wine.
Yeah, I've got plenty of places for that, and they are delightful. But it's funny now that even when I order it, the waitress will, okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, don't look at me like that. Just take my order and get it for me. Sally Ann Briggs, mate, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Right in the middle of the WNCL season. The Tassie Tigers are 2-0, and hopefully we can continue with that record. But Sally Ann Briggs, thank you so much for having a chat.
No worries. Thanks, Tom.